Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. Well, average retail prices for major fertilizers continue to be mostly higher for the fourth week of May, according to sellers surveyed by DTN. Average retail prices for 7 of the 8 major fertilizers were higher compared to last month for the third straight week. DTN designates a significant move as anything 5% or more. Leading the way higher again was urea. The nitrogen fertilizer was 11% higher than last month. UAN 28, 8% more expensive. 5 fertilizers had slightly higher prices, those being DAP, MAP, Potash, 10340, and UAN 32. Well, if you've been keeping track, then you know we haven't mentioned anhydrous. Anhydrous fertilizer was slightly lower looking back to prior months. What about a year ago? 7 fertilizers are now higher in price compared to 1 year earlier. DAP is 1% higher. Both MAP and anhydrous 2% higher. 10340 is up by 4%. UAN 28 up by 17%. UAN 32 by 22%, and urea is 23% higher than a year ago. The remaining fertilizer, potash, continues to be lower by 7% compared to last year. DTN gathers these fertilizer price bids from agriculture retailers each week to compile the DTN Fertilizer Index. They began reporting this data back in November of 2008. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Plenty of clouds and moisture hanging around here for today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Forecast update here for Ohio. The frontal boundary that was working into the state last night and overnight seems to want to stall here a little bit. Our pattern is stagnating, and that's going to keep on again, off again, scattered showers around through today and through most of tomorrow. Now, tomorrow I will say that it's going to be focusing a little bit more on south and southeastern parts of Ohio rather than northwest. We might even put together a mostly dry Friday midday and afternoon period in northern parts of the state. But we'll see how it all comes together. Everything's finally done by the time we get to Saturday morning to midday. So I think we can still see another quarter to 1 inch of precipitation combined over the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, over about 80% of Ohio. Going through the weekend, then, we dry down, as we said, Saturday afternoon, evening. Sunday starts dry. We have our next frontal boundary coming through overnight Sunday night into very early Monday morning. Only about 60% coverage out of that, with moisture at anywhere from 1/10 to half an inch. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, beautiful sunshine, excellent drying. Friday, some heat-based instability may create a few pop-up thunderstorms, but nothing with good coverage. Our next good coverage weather system tries to come in for the later part of next weekend, Sunday the 15th, with rain and thunderstorms that could be upwards to 1 inch to 1.5 inches again. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Let's check in with our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council and your checkoff dollars at work. Here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
I'm joined today by Dr. Horacio Lopez-Nicora, OSU Extension soybean pathologist and nematologist. Horacio, as we go out and check our soybean fields, maybe do some scouting of those early seedling emergence issues. Why is it important, if we have concerns, that we send samples into the lab?
Why it's important that we recognize what type of pathogen may be causing these seedling diseases is because our active ingredients that we normally select and use in seed treatments will have to target these particular pathogens, right? Let's say we actually treated our seeds, yet we have seedling diseases in the field. What's going on? Well, maybe the active ingredient was not meant to manage and control the water mold. It was a great fungicide for true fungus like Fusarium and Rhizoc, but does nothing to the water mold. So very important information there when we actually know what type of organisms we have in our field. Having said that, Dusty, seed treatments are not the silver bullet. Specifically in situations where we have seed maybe sitting in the ground in cold conditions that does not germinate and emerge very quickly. So we're sitting there. The plant is taking time or is very slowly at emerging and developing a lot of wet and sitting water that may be washing some of these products. So many things can happen that even though we treated our seed with a seed treatment, we don't see the result we're expecting.
Again, my guest today, Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora, OSU Extension soybean pathologist and nematologist. And today's update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff.
And thanks, Dusty. 2 Chinese nationals, including a scholar at the University of Michigan, were arrested for allegedly smuggling a pathogen into the U.S. that is known to be destructive to corn, wheat, rice, and barley crops, according to a criminal complaint filed in federal court on Monday. Chinese nationals, including a researcher at the University of Michigan, were arrested on charges that they smuggled a dangerous crop pathogen into the U.S. The 2 citizens of the People's Republic of China were charged with conspiracy, smuggling goods into the U.S., false statements, and visa fraud, according to a complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Detroit said in a news release on Tuesday the FBI arrested Jillian in connection with the pair's alleged smuggling into the U.S. of a fungus called Fusarium graminearum, which scientific literature classifies as a potential agroterrorism weapon. The fungus is known to cause head blight, a disease of wheat, barley, corn, and rice, and is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. Fusarium graminearum toxins cause vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive defects in humans and livestock. The complaint filed in federal court, however, does not allege the couple had plans to unleash the pathogen on U.S. farms. According to the complaint, Jillian received Chinese government funding for her work on the pathogen in China. A single smuggling charge comes up with as much as 20 years in prison time. The complaint alleges that Jillian's electronics contain information describing her membership in and loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. It is further alleged that Jillian's boyfriend, Lou, works at a Chinese university where he conducts research on this same pathogen, and that he first lied, but then admitted to smuggling Fusarium graminearum into the U.S. through the Detroit Metropolitan Airport so that he could conduct research on the pathogen at the laboratory at the University of Michigan, where his girlfriend, Jillian, worked. Stay tuned, back with more after this.
A healthy body needs good food. This summer, the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce is sponsoring Sun Meals, a summer food program where kids eat free. Children under 18 receive healthy meals and no sign-up is required. Locations may be right in your neighborhood. Call 1-866-348-6479 or visit education.ohio.gov/kidseat for meal locations and times. That's education.ohio.gov/kidseat.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals. Your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
Joining me is Scott Higgins, CEO of American Dairy Association Mideast. June is Dairy Month. Tell us a little bit more about the dairy industry. What are we celebrating on behalf of dairy farmers and their checkoff choices over the years?
Well, it's such an honor to have the opportunity to celebrate dairy farmers and their contribution to the economy, the industry, and all that they do on their farms. I think consumers just really don't realize what all goes on behind the scenes on a dairy farm. Think of those early morning hours where the farmers are getting up and caring for their animal. Throughout the day that they're taking care of feeding them. And then, of course, they're raising the crop that is environmentally safe production practices, hauling manure properly. And then think about the impact they have on the community. I think it's so powerful to stop and think about what's the economic impact that the dairy industry has on our local communities. You don't think about it until a farm shuts down, and then you don't see the trucks and the drivers coming in delivering feed, seed. But since the checkoff program began in 1984, when dairy farmers had a 17.5 billion pound surplus, they needed to sell their way out of it. They all committed to investing in their future, and they spent the money to do it year-round. So while we're celebrating June Dairy Month now, we celebrate dairy foods all year round.
And thank you, Scott Higgins, CEO of American Dairy Association Mideast, celebrating June Dairy Month. And remember, what's the month right after June? July, Ice Cream Month, and we're ready to celebrate that as well. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information on your soybeans to LDC, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mostly higher on Wednesday. Second half of the week going to be interesting as we head toward the close. Lower volume trade yesterday. Corn and soybean values pushed a little bit higher on some short covering to start. And there was talk about longer-term summer weather forecasts out there. Nearby, we are seeing some rain push across the eastern Corn Belt for the balance of today and into tomorrow. Slow-moving front's going to offer decent rains through Ohio and even back into parts of Indiana over the next 24 to 36 hours. But there's a big upper-level ridge starting to build over the Great Plains next week, and that hot dome, using bunny ears there, is what's caused a little bit of the summer weather fears. Now, as we take a look at other stories in the marketplace yesterday, we did get our standard EIA energy report, and the ethanol grind was a record 325 million gallons of production this past week. Production 3% above last year. Ethanol stocks rose 7 million gallons. The expectation is for the WASDE on June 12th to reduce corn ethanol grind by 25 to 50 million bushels, on pace, and the amount of sorghum that has been included in ethanol feedstock for the grind. Seasonally, U.S. ethanol production builds into July before stagnating. The abundance and cheapness of milo and other things in the ethanol production landscape will be more of a story, I think, than anything else. The usage of ethanol in the national fuel supply is not going to change much at all. President Trump and Russian President Putin just completed a lengthy phone call yesterday. Trump indicates that Russia is going to be retaliating for Ukraine's drone attack. That was a duh moment yesterday, but what is the wheat market going to do? The wheat market gathered a little strength to move higher after the drone strike over the weekend and into the start of this week. A Russian retaliatory strike may be able to add a little more life to this market as the world looks to other sources for wheat coverage. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. We'll look at the overnight markets after this.
If your summer road trip leads you to Ohio's farm country, be sure to share the road with Ohio's farmers. Farm machinery moves slowly, makes wide turns, and needs extra space to avoid obstacles like mailboxes and guardrails. Let's all be mindful and make sure everyone gets home safe and sound this year. This message brought to you by the Ohio AgNet, OSU Extension Ag Safety and Health Team, and this station.
Think biodiesel is just another fuel? Think again. Biodiesel is Ohio innovation on the move. Clean, green, and built to keep diesel engines running strong. It's an engine booster, a soybean supporter, and an environmental champion all in one. Every gallon reduces emissions, strengthens Ohio farms, and powers your ride. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, July corn up 1 at $4.39 3/4. December up a half, $4.44 1/4. March is $4.60, up 3/4. Beans struggling a little. July beans down 3/4 cent at $10.44 1/4. November down 1/4 penny at $10.24 3/4. And January also down 1/4 cent, but at $10.38 3/4. July wheat up 2 at $5.45 1/4 cent. September $5.59 3/4, up 2 1/2. Carry the wheat to December. You're up 2 1/4 at $5.81 1/4 cent. In livestock, June cattle closed at $2.42 higher at $218.40. August was $212.35, up $2.60. Hog split with June down 25 at $99.97, but July up 45 at $105.02. September feeder cattle, $2.72 higher at $303.15. Push them on out to October, and you're up $262 at $301.27. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Dale Minyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.